reaction now. We can speak to Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP, member of the Brexit Select Committee, we should say Remainer. Thank you very much for being with us. We were hearing there of Theresa May's defiant tone, a sense that perhaps she had been disrespected by her colleagues in the EU. What did you make of it?
Well, I think we've seen the writing on the wall for some time. The Brexit Select Committee went to meet with Michel Barnier right back at the beginning of September, and we told the Prime Minister, I told Dominic Raab, this deal was dead, and it is now very clearly dead as a dodo. I don't know why the Prime Minister refuses to listen when the EU simply says, we've got our position on the single market, we cannot see anything that undermines the integrity of the single market. It is as simple as that. And she says now, well, we're waiting for the EU to come forward with proposals, but it's the UK that's leaving the EU. It took her 2 years to get Chequers agreed by her cabinet. Clearly, during that time, she hadn't done any alignment with the EU, so we're in this absurd situation. She's produced a Chequers agreement from her cabinet, which had no way been landed or agreed with the EU, and no wonder, therefore, that we're in this completely chaotic and shambolic situation. It's rapidly turning our country into a laughingstock, frankly.
But does that not take all onus off of the EU to compromise in any way? Your position there seems to be that we have to keep going back to them with a new position until they say, oh, yes, we're happy with that. Why don't they have to meet halfway, as Theresa May might suggest?
I mean, I lived and worked in Brussels for many years. The way the European Union works is on the basis of models. Like it or loathe it, that is simply the reality. And it's been clear from the start. You either have a Canada-style model or you have a European Economic Area-style model. What you do with the European Union is agree the basic foundations. It's like building a house. Get the foundations in place, get the blueprint. You can then have an argument about the doors, the windows, and the colour of the curtains. Because the government utterly failed and spent 2 years arguing amongst themselves, they haven't got the basic foundations of a deal in place. If we'd gone to the EU from the start, which is what I've been saying for 2 years now, saying, look, we need the European Economic Area as the basic model. We won't solve the Northern Irish border unless we're in some form of customs union and single market. But we need serious reform on the way that free movement of labour works. Articles 112 and 113 of the EEA agreement actually enable the suspension and reform of any one of the 4 freedoms that underpin the single market. But you've first of all got to agree the basic foundations of the deal, rather than trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat and create something completely new, which the EU looks at and says, well, this is just going to undermine the integrity of the single market, which is one of our red lines. So I'm afraid the Prime Minister has utterly failed to understand the way that the European Union works. And I'm afraid she's surrounded by advisors and other Conservative MPs who also don't understand the way that the process works. Get the foundations in place, then you can actually have a negotiation about some of the key issues that you may have within that framework.
OK. Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.